Welcome to Pixel Therapy, the video game podcast where we look at the games we play through the lens of the player, where what you play is just as important as how you play it, and where emotional intelligence is a critical stat. I'm your co-host Jamie, pronouns she, they,
And I'm your co-host Spencer, pronouns they, them.
and this is Pixel Therapy.
Mm.
Remember, folks, we've done away with exclusive benefits for paid Patreon subscriptions, so come subscribe to us for free to stay up to date on all things Pixel Therapy. It's the best and kind of only way to find all of our podcast streams and written thoughts. Just go to patreon.com/pixeltherapypod. Find everything you want right there. If you're looking for other ways to support the show, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And be sure to check out and subscribe to the Pixel Therapy Pod YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@pixeltherapypod, where we'll continue to post live recordings of all of our episodes. And of course, know that no matter how you choose to engage with us, we appreciate you being here all the same. All right, time to get cozy. Time to pull up an armchair. Feel free to lie down on the couch. Let's pretend that we haven't already been talking for an hour and a half. And Spencer, tell me how you're doing.
Time flies when I'm talking to Jamie. I'm good. I'm going on a pride paddle today.
Yes. Yes. Tell the people about the pride paddle.
It's when you and a bunch of other gays get in some canoes and try not to die after there have been heavy rains in your area and the currents are fast moving in canoes, and also pride. A time-honored tradition among queers. Drinking on the water and paddling around.
Just give it a little paddle. That sounds fun, though. That sounds like it'll be pleasant. Is the weather nice, at least, over there?
Honestly, oh my god, I was so scared. It was, like, so humid and nasty, and then this morning it was raining, but I looked at the forecast, and apparently within, like, another hour, it's supposed to, like, clear up and the sun is gonna be out. So that means God approves of homosexuality.
There it is. You heard it here first, folks. God approves
Blessed.
of
Too
the gay
blessed to be
folks.
stressed. I'm packing a whole cooler of snacks because even though it's 3 hours, my brain is like, I gotta have nuts. I gotta have cheese.
You could get lost. You could get stranded.
Exactly.
You're going out into the wilds. You want to be prepared.
We got drinks. I made chicken salad, so my partner's downstairs making sandwiches.
Yes.
It's gonna be good.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. That'll be nice. It sounds like a nice, relaxing activity.
I'll let you know if I survive.
Yeah, please do. Text me when you get back.
I will.
I know that you made it home safe and sound.
How are you?
I'm okay. I
Oh.
don't know. I don't know. The world's on fire. My job's on fire. But
we're here.
Yeah, one of the local cafes near us started making their own donuts, so I went and got a donut today, and just like a made from scratch donut, when you live in the land of dunks, and
Yeah,
a
feels
made from
good.
scratch donut is a nice thing. A nice thing.
I got to see Jamie eat it on camera, so it was like my own personal mukbang video.
Yeah, unfortunately for you. And I felt a little uncomfortable. Spencer asked to see the donuts whole. I don't know.
I just wanted to see
I know it's Pride Month and everything, but
quality.
cream quality. had to get real right up close to the camera, get the little like cream hole right up there.
In there.
All right. With no segue whatsoever, let's move into our main topic for today. To celebrate Pride Month, and because we're always talking about gay shit, I don't know. We decided to do a series of LGBTQ plus horror visual novels today. I don't know. We wanted to play something queer for Pride Month, and looked at a bunch of different stuff, and ultimately came down to these 3 games that we'd seen recommended. I know one of them had already been on my list, Mediterranea Inferno. But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about 3 visual novels that came out over the last, well, God, one of them stretches all the way back to 2015. We're looking at We Know the Devil, a decade-old game, Mediterranea Inferno, and Midnight Scenes from the Woods. That's what we're going to be talking about today.
I have a question for you before we
yeah.
get into the games.
Yes, please ask your question.
Okay, Jamie, why do you think that the horror genre works so well with stories that explore LGBTQ themes?
I was not prepared for that question.
Just, just or if you have any thoughts on that.
If I have any thoughts on that. Um, oh man. I don't know. Horror I saw a thing that was like, uh, I don't remember where I saw this quote, but I was doing some reading recently and they were talking about like sci-fi is really good at exploring like social structures
Mm.
and like political structures. And horror is way better at like the individual and the psychological. Like, why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing because you were like, "I'm not at all prepared for this question,"
I
and you
wasn't
had a really good
prepared for this
response.
question. And so, like, I think when you're talking about something as personal as identity and something that particularly like being queer isn't scary, just
Mhm.
on its own, but because of the society that we live in and how demonized it often feels and how much people are othered when they come
Mm,
out as queer or when they're, growing up queer, I feel like it's really easy to turn that into a horror narrative because it can be really scary to know that there's something different or in like the societal context quote unquote wrong with you
mm.
and having to navigate that and figure out what parts of yourself you're going to show and what parts you're not. And I think all three of these games deal with that. Like it's not yeah, I don't know. All three of these games deal with that in different ways. So we'll get into that as we have the conversation. But let me turn the
Dude.
question back on you. Why
Ah,
do you
fuck.
think horror speaks? Oh yeah, you thought you were going to be so clever with that one. I mean, why do you I don't know, something interesting when we were looking at what games that we might wanna play for this episode, I was, like, sifting through lists of, like just to see what games I had missed, and it actually
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty impressive. I'm, like, looking up lists of, like, the best LGBTQ+ games in the last 10 years. We've played a lot of the ones that surface on that list, like,
nice.
there was so much that we had already played, talked about, etcetera. But a lot of it comes down to like, oh, this game has LGBTQ plus stuff because it's create a character and then you can romance whoever you want. Like that's
Mm,
kind of like one category that you see a lot. Another category is dating sims, like lots
mhm,
of queer friendly dating sims, which is great.
mhm.
Love that. And then the other category that came up the most was horror. So
Yeah,
I just kind of like I mentioned that to you. I was like, it seems like there's a lot of horror games with LGBTQ plus themes. So
yeah.
yeah, why do you think those 2 things go together like peanut butter and jelly?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what you said resonated, and I feel like there's something, that, like, when I think about, a lot of themes that are often present in horror, like, there's, ideas of like cults or like religious things, which I think queer people can easily translate into drawing horror elements from because of the ways in which often those things are utilized against us, either cults of hatred that come after us or religious institutions that try to stamp us out, or also being accused of being in cults ourselves and having to grapple with, one of the first things one of my parents said to me when I came out as trans was like, "Oh my god, you're part of the LGBTQ sex cult," and I was like, "I don't
Mm,
even know what that is."
mm.
um,
But you were in it.
I was in it. It's so insidious. Or literal like conversion therapy and the harm that has done for generations. Like, we like the queer community is built upon the kind of oral tradition of speaking our history down through generations, and that being one of the only ways that we can preserve our history because so much of our texts and our elders, you know, are erased. And so, the cruising culture and just like the kind of interplay of everyone in the queer community knows each other. Like a lot of that draws back to like we have to do so much through physical interaction and oral tradition because in a lot of ways that was the best way to survive. And I think the queer community is very good at kind of like existing in spaces and navigating spaces in ways that kind of skirt. scrutiny or being found and caught and things like that. So I just think inherently, like being queer comes with a lot of similar. I don't know, the tropes is the right word, but like we're kind of living through horror every day. I think for me, horror, like watching horror films is a way of I used to be terrified of them when I was a very young child. I would refuse to watch them. And as an adult, it's almost like, oh, like suddenly my life's not so bad because I can watch this horror film where there's like demons and monsters and shit happening, and
Mhm.
it's like almost like an escapism thing.
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot of relatability, like you were speaking to, and then on like the body horror aspect and transformation and like things happening to your body. I don't know. I think a lot of trans people can relate to kind of it's not like it's not like horror to like transform your body, but this idea that the body is malleable and we have this, divine capacity to create ourselves into something new. Like I think there's just a lot of creative fodder there. I know a lot of trans people love angels and, you know, original depictions of angels in the Bible are not like these like white, blonde hair, beautiful, benevolent
Mhm.
people that are like have 2 wings and are wearing robes. Like angels in the Old Testament are like horrifying, many-eyed, many-winged animal body parts sticking out, so terrible in their beauty to look at that it like drives you mad to see one. Like
Mhm.
there's all kinds of cool shit to draw from that. So yeah, I just think like it's a way of processing a lot of the pain that we may experience in a society that's not built to accept us. It's also on a fun side, there's also just a lot of relatable threads to pull from to create really interesting stories. I think it's a way of reclaiming power. Um, yeah, all of that and more.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. That was a way better answer than mine. So,
I
thank
think
you.
both of our answers were good.
You would say that. Alright, let's get into it. Did you have a game that you wanted to start with?
I saw you had Midnight Scenes from the Woods listed first in our little prep doc.
Mhm, mhm.
I
You
guess
wanna
I'll
jump
let
in
me
there?
okay,
I've gotta intro the game first, so don't start talking about the game,
okay,
but
okay. Well, no, I'm not gonna talk about the game, but let me
okay,
just say this. Last
okay.
night,
Yes.
I got stoned and I was like, I'm gonna play Midnight Scenes in from the Woods. I'm not
Uh-huh.
gonna say anything about the game, but like it looked like the most overtly scary of the 3 that we played. So I was like, I'm gonna get a little
Yeah,
stoned beforehand because if I'm gonna be scared, I
yeah,
want a buffer.
yeah.
So I played the game, loved it,
Uh-huh.
and then I immediately texted Jamie, "Slay the house down, boots. Body is tree. Forest is mother."
Except all caps in all one sentence, like, there was no natural pauses
In
built
my
into it.
head, I was like, "I'm cooking with this. This is like they're gonna totally understand what I'm talking about." Jamie took like
Uh
20 minutes to respond and was like, "What the hell are you talking
Well,
about?"
because I was frantically Google searching to try to feel less uncool.
But I'll say more about what I felt about it, but I loved it. But let's intro it.
Okay, okay, so we'll start with midnight scenes. Yeah, and these I put these in here in no particular order, so I don't care what order we go in. But anyway, we'll start with midnight scenes. So midnight scenes from the woods. It's an midnight scenes itself is an ongoing horror anthology series of these like kind of bite-sized point and click adventure games from developer White Blanket Games, which consists of the pixel artist Octavi Navarro and the writer Susanna Granell. From the Woods is the fourth entry in the series and the second most recent, so they have 5 games total. It came out in 2023 on PC, and it focuses on a series of disturbing incidents that begin happening at the Fernwood Creek Mental Health Center after the arrival of a new patient. So the game is told from the perspective of a young boy named Elijah, who is a patient at Fernwood, and it's generally a home for like young troubled boys. So it's like all the patients at the center are like teen boys. And the game opens with the arrival of a new boy named Oliver, right? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Oliver is there because 10 years ago, him and his sister went missing from their home, and they were the police have been searching them for a decade. There's like a cold case file. They don't know what happened. But suddenly he's turned back up.
Mhm.
And he's from the woods. It comes out that he was living in the woods that whole time with his sister. And I won't say more about the central mystery of what has been going on with Oliver, but Elijah is immediately drawn to him. Our main character, Elijah, is revealed to be a young gay boy pretty early on, and he's bullied and ostracized by the other teens at the center because of his sexuality. But he immediately feels drawn to Oliver and tries to befriend him. And then some crazy shit happens.
Mhm.
What'd you think of Midnight Scenes, and how did you play it?
I played it on the Steam Deck. Played it, I think it said, like, 2.7 hours. So, yeah, which all of these are kind of around that, like, 1 hour to 2 hours, 1 to
Yeah.
3 hours, depending on how many runs you wanna do, but, uh, for the other 2, this one was pretty I don't think this one had multiple endings, right? I think it's just the
Yeah, no,
one.
I think this is kind of the most straightforward in terms of the narrative.
Yeah.
I don't even remember getting any there are some dialogue choices, but I don't think they actually influence
Yeah.
the narrative. But this one also has more interactive elements than I think the
Mhm.
other two games that we're going to talk about did. So there was more of a point and click adventure game feel to it, albeit without like the puzzles that you would usually see in a point and click adventure game. Usually in a point and click, it would be like you need to get through this door, figure out how to do it, and you've gotta go through every room and, like, pick up every object, and eventually you
Right.
find, like, "Oh, if I take the duct tape and tie it around this hammer, I can open the door," like,
Yeah.
weird shit like that. It doesn't have that level of puzzle design
Yeah.
to it, it's way more straightforward than that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this one didn't really have a multiple ending thing, I don't
Yeah.
this
So
was the only one that I did not play multiple times.
mhm.
Either,
Yeah.
but I just got the sense that, like, that was the story. It didn't seem like there was anything you could change.
Yeah, so it kinda felt like, so I'll say, okay, played on the deck. I think it was my favorite of the 3. Um,
I wanna hear more about that.
it I think it just felt like the vibe felt very, like, Goosebumps, like,
Yeah,
after
definitely a
school,
Goosebumps.
kind of, like,
Twilight Zone.
scary tale. Yeah, Twilight
Yeah, it
Zone.
really leans into that anthology horror series vibe. I haven't played any of the other Midnight Scenes games, but they're all,
Mhm.
like, $5 each, so it's like and are these kind of, like, bite-sized little fun stories. Yeah,
Yeah.
goosebumpy.
I really appreciated the tone it struck. Like, it
Mhm.
was I think it even opens with something like, "Welcome to the midnight scenes."
Mhm.
Like, it
Mhm.
has this kind of, it reminds me of, like, late '80s, early '90s kind of campy horror, and I think what delighted me so much was that I went into it thinking, 'cause like I said, I got stoned because it had the most overtly scary, like, visuals. Like,
Yeah.
I would say there's, like, 1 or 2 light jump scares,
Mhm.
there's some disturbing imagery,
Definitely, yeah.
um, things that are like horror movie level, like, kind of, I wouldn't say, it's like light gore.
Mhm.
But it's all in this 2D pixelated style, or
Yeah.
I guess there are some parts where there's, more realism, still pixel drawn, but
Yeah, like, the gameplay is, more less detailed. The
yeah,
gameplay parts are less detailed in terms of the pixel
like
art,
side
but
scroll.
then it will go into, like, a detailed image, almost like a cutscene, except it's not really, like, in full motion, it's not fully
Yeah,
animated, and that will be, like, hyper detailed, pixel art that's just got a really fucking cool look to it. If you just wanna look up, Octavio Navarro's art generally, like, he's just a pixel artist. You go on his website, he's got a bunch of art that he's done,
yeah,
pixels, and it's really cool. He's got a really cool style.
yeah. So, I went into it thinking I was getting into one type of story, and then it totally subverted my expectations and became something, like, super surprisingly wholesome.
Mm,
And it's just, like, I was so happy by the end, like, it was just such a sweet, gay as hell, like, really cute story. I feel like people who like that movie, The Babadook,
mm,
became a gay cult hit, and the Babadook himself
mhm.
became, like, a bi icon.
I
I
didn't know
feel
this.
like
I've seen
really?
Babadook, but I didn't know it had this subculture.
Oh my
Why is
god.
the Babadook a bi icon? I need to know more about this
It's
immediately.
like, God, this was also this I God, that
How
movie came
there's
out.
a Vox.com article, how the Babadook became the
Oh,
LGBTQ
amazing.
icon we didn't
Thank
know we
you. Thank you,
needed. How
Vox.
terrorizing a white Australian family became an act of queer defiance.
We love
Okay,
gay
well, I'll
horror.
be reading this article in full
Yes,
as soon as we're
yes.
done recording this podcast. But that title and subtitle are enough to get me.
So,
Love this.
like
Also, there's a great picture of like a cartoon drawing of the Babadook wearing a
yes,
pride flag top hat.
yes, yes, I have seen so much Babadook fan art, it's crazy.
This is amazing.
So,
Okay.
like, for the same reason that that happened, I think this game hits on a lot of
Yeah.
those vibes. Like,
Okay.
I just found it utterly delightful,
Mhm.
and it wasn't anything particularly groundbreaking, but I didn't need it to be. I love that, I had a bit of a fanboy moment when a direction I was hoping it would go in did come to pass, and then considering the climax and how everything plays out, I think, like, I was hoping for a little bit more of a, protagonist-driven resolution, I'd
Mhm.
say.
Mhm.
But I was very delighted and tickled by how everything played out, and I just was like, "You know what? Whatever. This was fun. I would totally watch this if it was like an animated short or something." Like, it was
Mhm.
just a lot of fun and sweet. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, yeah, this
Hated
was
it.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. But I do think this was my least favorite of the 3 that we played. I really like the pixel
Canceled.
art.
You're canceled.
Yeah. Spencer and I aren't friends anymore. We're actually this is our last podcast episode because I
'Cause you're
didn't like this
canceled.
game as much as because I'm canceled. I don't even, not even really gay. Like I didn't know the Babadook was a bi icon. I didn't understand the Boots House slay down text. This Pride Month, I'll be announcing that I'm actually
Jamie's
just
learning a lot this Pride Month.
yeah, I'm just what we've all learned is that I'm just actually straight. I've just been faking.
No. It's
No,
never that.
it's never that. Yeah. I'm canceled for not knowing anything about the culture. No, the game I liked the vibes of it. I liked the pixel art. I thought the narrative was perfectly fine. It just didn't I wasn't stoned. I wasn't in the same headspace of, like, I wanted just, like, a cute little, like, fun little
Yeah,
horror romp.
yeah.
So I don't really have any big complaints about it. I don't think it did anything wrong. It was so short, and I felt like it was also a lot more focused on the monster of it all and the
Mm,
vibes of it all, and I didn't really get to fully connect with the characters, and
mm,
that is where a lot of my enjoyment of something comes down to, like, it's really important to me, and, like, what gets me in basically any piece of media is if I am making a connection with the characters. I just didn't feel like we don't I don't know, we're kind of, like, held at a little bit of a distance from
mm,
Elijah, I thought, or he's just yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You don't really get much interiority in the
mm,
game, outside of, I liked the idea that he's in the hospital for an anxiety disorder, and it's, alluded early on that he likes to write little horror stories about the other
mhm,
people that he's in the hospital with, and I actually kinda thought that's where it was going, that it was all gonna be revealed to be part of like in his head and
Ooh.
like a story that he was writing or that he was like making this stuff up and things weren't really happening like
Yeah.
what we were seeing happen. Um and so yeah, just the way everything played out, I was like, "Oh, okay. It's just much more straightforward than that."
Yeah.
I did like some of the kind of like themes I think you could draw with this game of uh I don't know, I felt like there were in some ways, Oliver's trauma was like a defense mechanism and like a protection for him. I felt like there was like some
Mm,
themes you could draw out there that I thought was interesting. But everything is I mean, I think I played this on the Steam Deck as well, and I don't think it took me more than 90 minutes. It's
mm,
just quite quick. And so it ends up feeling like pretty surface level. And
mm.
it was almost like I wanted uh
Yeah.
more from it. Um, but it was a fun time. For $5,
Mhm.
definitely check it out. You can also get the bundle of all the Midnight Scene games for, like, 20 or $25. Um, I don't know if I'm personally gonna do that because this didn't vibe with me the same, but maybe you should check it 'em out. Since they're,
Maybe I
like,
will.
they're your new favorite games of all time. And we're just burning friendships over it,
Oh my
so,
god. Yeah, I don't know. I think hmm. I see what you mean about the interiority. I felt like, I feel like sometimes or a lot of the time when we see a gay protagonist in, horror or even just in any sort of, like, movie or media setting, there's often, like, this, um, way that the I don't know, what am I trying to say? I appreciated that Elijah kinda had this like, even though he was constantly in danger from like, there are, like, these crazy bullies in the mental institution and, um sorry, not crazy. I shouldn't say crazy in that
mm,
way. I
yeah,
apologize.
yeah,
Um, I mean, there are people who are coming at him in really intense ways and very
yeah,
threatening.
yeah,
Um, there's never this feeling that he's afraid. Like, he almost kinda has this kind of wry, like,
yeah,
s like, mentality where he's so confident in himself that he never lets it question like, his grappling with his identity never comes up. Like, he never
yeah,
feels
no,
shame around it. He
yep,
never, like, internalizes anything anyone says to him. And
mhm,
I don't know, I just appreciated seeing that, like,
yeah, yeah,
um, but I hear you that it would have been nice to get more of the interiority. But I think that's why I felt attracted to this, protagonist in general because he just felt very capable.
yeah. I would yeah, I would agree with all of that. I liked him, I liked what we got, I think I wanted a bit more from the game overall, from the story and the characters, it just kind of felt like everything moved really quickly, and I didn't feel like I got the opportunity to spend enough time with them to really get to know them. Like, because we're not in his head in the same way we are in some of the other games, um, the the speed with which the story was delivered made that disconnect a little worse for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
personally. But I did like what we saw of him. I liked that, a lot of the times where you're getting to make dialogue decisions, it's in conversations with, like, the head therapist or doctor at the facility, and, like, you can make dialogue choices where you don't know exactly what happened yet either because Elijah's, like, basically being interviewed by the doctor about things that have been happening, and yet, even when you're making the dialogue decisions, I'm like, "I feel like this is a lie, and I'm gonna pick it anyway," and you pick it anyway, and then you see what really happened. But just, like, the kinda, like, casual sarcasm with which he's just like, "Yeah, then everything was fine," and then you watch a scene, it's like, everything was not fine."
Yeah.
Like, some real crazy shit happened or wild shit happened. Um, yeah. Anyway, it was a fun game, though. Fun game.
Midnight Scenes from the
Midnight
Woods.
Scenes from the Woods, go check it out. It's a good one. What do you wanna talk about next?
Let's talk about which one was your favorite? Let's talk about that one next.
Um, Well, okay, that is, and I think it's gonna be, somewhat divisive as well because we already talked about it a little bit beforehand, but We Know the Devil was probably my favorite.
Okay, yeah.
So this is the oldest one. This one came out in 2015. We Know the Devil's a visual novel. It's made by a small indie developer called pillowfight. And it was originally released on PC. You can also get it now on Switch. And I felt like when I was trying to write up what this game is about, I don't think I can do much better than the itch.io description. So I'm just going to read that. Says anyone can kill the devil. That's why they always make teens the vampire slayers, the magical girls. But some kids can't even get that right. And that's why Mean Girl Neptune, Tomboy Jupiter, and Shy Shy Venus have to endure one more week of summer camp and each other, singing boring songs about Jesus, doing busy work for adults, and hoping God's radio can't hear them. Before they leave the summer scouts, they've got to spend 12 hours in the loneliest cabin in the woods and wait for the devil to come and live through the night. Or not, you know. So, this is a pretty straightforward visual novel. Um, It focuses on the 3 kids that were mentioned there, Neptune, Jupiter, and Venus, and it's a, like, church, summer camp, basically, that they're stuck at. You join up with them on their last night at the summer camp, and you kinda get the sense that these 3 are the quote, unquote, "the bad kids," the troubled kids. So they get paired up and told to spend the last night of summer camp, in this lonely cabin in the woods, and they're supposed to stay on watch for the devil.
Mhm.
And within, like, the lore of the game, like, these kids are at summer camp being trained how to spot the devil and fight the devil. And so they stay up all night to keep an eye out for the devil, and shit happens.
As it always does.
As it always does. One of the things that I really liked about this game is you're not really making decisions in the sense that you're, like, choosing characters' dialogue um, or choosing what you're doing is you're constantly picking which pair of characters you wanna pair up on things. So there's the 3 main characters, but the game is constantly giving you situations where one person has to be left behind or one person has to go do something by themselves, and so you're always picking who are the 2 that are gonna stay together,
Mhm.
and as you do that, what determines the final, like, ending of the game has 4 different endings. What determines the final ending is who's been left out the most. And then there's a secret, well, not really secret, but there's, like, a special true ending, which is if you decide make decisions that allow everyone to, be equal and nobody gets left out the most, you unlock the, like, quote, unquote, "true ending" of the game.
Mhm.
Um I played this on Switch, on specifically on my Switch 2. Wanted to try out my new
Nice.
Nintendo
Next
Switch 2.
gen?
First game, well, no, technically we played Mario the other weekend, but first full game to have played a 2015-year-old visual novel on the Nintendo Switch 2, and it felt good. I liked holding it better than I like holding the Steam Deck, so I'll give it
Mm,
those bonus points. I really like the art style of this game.
yeah.
They've got these old, like, 90s style, like, grainy
Like
ass,
found footage type.
disposable camera. I think it
Yeah.
said in the description that they actually took the pictures with disposable cameras. And
Nice.
so they've got this, like, foggy, grainy look to them of the backdrops of the scenes. So it'll be a picture of, like, a fire pit, with, like, some benches around it, and then the characters themselves are, like, just 2D hand-drawn, like, pencil lines basically on white paper, and they'll be superimposed in front of the background scene, and, there's some small animations, to them, but for the most part, it's pretty static image, and then just the text on the screen. I would also say this game has some of the more, like, the writing is a little bit amateurish. It definitely feels like a very low budget,
Mm,
like, indie game, um, which isn't it not wasn't a bad thing to me, but I definitely clocked it. Like, there's some stuff that almost feels like typos sometimes in the writing or
mhm.
things that are just written a little oddly, and definitely because of the limited visuals, there's times where they're trying to convey things in the narrative with just, like, some sound effects,
Right.
and then the dialogue, and sometimes you're like, "What exactly is happening right now? I don't actually understand what the characters are physically doing." So that happened at a couple of different
Yeah.
points in the game,
Uh-huh.
and I think you spoke to that too, of just feeling kind of confused by some of the lore and stuff. Um But overall, I really liked this is a game, like you said, where the story is about these 3 characters coming to terms with how they're different, and learning to accept that about themselves. But that being, like, a core theme of the game, and I really like the quote unquote "true ending." I don't wanna like, spoil anything, but I found the true ending to be, like, really beautiful and cool while also being, like, gross and, like, leaning into some of the
Mm,
horror stuff, but, like,
mhm.
the way the game ends and builds and, like, even all of the endings, if you leave somebody out, how that develops and what happens with them is really cool. The, like, reveal of who the devil is in relation to God, and
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed all of that, and as somebody who has a lot of memories of spending time at church camps in the
Mhm.
'90s in the summer, there was a lot of it that resonated with me there. I mean, I wasn't at that age, I knew I was a weird loner and different, but I didn't understand I was queer until much later in my life, so that specific piece of it wasn't part of it for me, but I just being weird and awkward and being, like, the quote, unquote "loser" at summer camp
Mhm.
was deeply deeply resonant, and so I think I connected with it a lot on that level, and I liked the 3 characters, that are included a lot, but what did you think of, the devil?
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, I definitely enjoyed this game a lot. I was telling Jamie, like, after I played it, I felt like I had to go to
No,
Reddit
we
and
can't
kind
we
of
can't be friends anymore because you
yeah.
didn't like We Know
'Cause
the Devil, and I didn't like Midnight
did I
Scene.
say I didn't like
No,
it?
no, and I didn't say I didn't like Midnight Scenes, for the record.
I've struck a nerve. I'm
We can still
sorry.
be friends. No, I'm just playing. I'm playing it up for the podcast.
Um, I felt like I had to go to Reddit and kind of, like, just see other people's reads and kind of be like, "Okay, okay, okay, okay," like, really get into the world building and lore a bit more. Um, so, yeah, I think for me, I did really appreciate and attach to, was, like you said, like, these explorations of, like, what is the devil? I think another very queer thing is, uh, this personification of and I'm not saying this is like a direct pull from the game, but I think, like, as like, in queer media and queer art, like, really the devil is who they are because they turned against God's ruling,
Mhm.
and so they were, like, sent away and sent down to earth, and, if gosh, I used to be so into, like, Bible lore, but I can't even remember, like, I feel like the original reason that Lucifer was cast out of heaven, it wasn't even really, like, an overtly evil thing, like, I think he just, like, wanted to I can't remember, like,
Yeah, I don't remember either, but I think you're right.
it was like he wanted to, like, talk to humans or something like that. It was something, like, not that crazy. Not fuck, sorry. I need to stop I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's a tough word to get out of your
It's just
vocabulary.
so, like,
Yeah.
I need to sorry. It wasn't even that wild what he wanted to do initially, and then he became, probably enraged because he was trapped in hell and stuff like that. But regardless, he was God's brightest angel,
Mhm.
like the most beautiful, I think Lucifer means light bringer.
Mhm.
um, so I think there's a lot of like queering the devil that I see and kind of like
Yeah.
leaning more into um the fact that just because you're forbidden to a certain group of people, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It just means that you're scary because you're unknown.
Mhm. Mhm.
And change freaks people out and all of that. So I really like this idea that the game was exploring about, maybe the devil, like what I was kind of drawing from it was like the devil being those parts of yourself that you feel like you have to hide and I think, this is also a lot of what I like of the Persona series,
Mm.
because Persona is also a series that explores, like, these aspects of yourself that society doesn't want you to express because it makes
Mhm.
people uncomfortable or it makes people feel attacked or it makes you not just blend in but stand out. Like these
Mhm.
things aren't inherently evil. They make you someone who can change the world and change society. And like you should lean into your your trickeryness, or you should lean into your vanity, or you should lean into your ego, because
Mhm.
some of these things can push you to really create the kind of change you want to see in the world and in yourself,
Mhm.
and help you break out of your shell. So I'm using persona as a metaphor because I don't want to spoil, like since it's such a
Yeah.
short game, I don't want to
Yeah.
spoil too much,
Yeah.
but um, I could absolutely attach to and find lots of relatability in the themes it was exploring with this kind of religious imagery. And I do
Mhm.
think they did a lot of interesting things with the world building. You know what it reminded me of too was I Saw the TV Glow. Kind of gave me
Mm.
those kind of
Yep.
like that the show within the movie of the Pink Opaque, about these two teen girls who were like fighting evil forces with their powers. It kind of
Yep.
reminded me of that as well. So I think if folks like
Yeah.
that movie, they'd probably like this game as well.
Yeah, I think there's, some similar again, the game has, like, pretty limited imagery, so when I say there's, like, some body horror gore stuff that happens near the end, but it's all just in description, you're not really seeing any of
Hmm.
that, but some of that is very reminiscent of some of what we get in, I Saw the TV Glow as well. Um, it also it wasn't a direct reminder at all, but for some reason I thought of that book Camp Damascus,
Hmm.
um, which is
Chuck
like about a
Tingle.
yeah, Chuck Tingle, about like a church camp where they're like experimenting on young queer kids to try to
Hmm.
like suppress their queerness.
Yeah.
Um, it's not exact one to one, but definitely these kids have gotten the instruction that yeah, there's something wrong with them. They're all again in quotes wrong with them. And they're all like suppressing urges that are not allowed in this
Yeah.
context of the church, and they're being told that they need to listen to God, keep their radios tuned to God. God is like
Hmm.
a radio signal,
Yeah.
and fight the devil. Um, there's I pulled this quote from I found I was just looking to see like what people had written about We Know the Devil, and I came across Gita Jackson, who's somebody that I still follow.
Hmm.
To this day, like a writer and critic. And they had wrote this article, or they had made their top 10 list in 2015, and We Know the Devil was actually number 1
Oh
on
wow.
their 2015 top 10 games list that they posted for Giant Bomb. And they closed it with this quote that I wanted to share that I think really sums up what's beautiful about the game. Gita says, "If we know the devil is trying to say anything, it's that you deserve to love yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. The things that make you weird or unlovable actually make you more powerful than everyone that puts you down. The devil loves you and he won't abandon you, and the curse he gave you was actually a gift. You know him. You know him because even if no one else loves you, he always has and always will. Remember that. You're always loved."
Aw.
Um, and yeah, especially if you get the true ending of the game, I think that's spot on with the message of this.
Mm.
Because ultimately what these kids are trying to learn how to do is to love themselves and be themselves despite everyone around them telling them or giving them, covert signals that that's wrong, that they need to
Yeah.
suppress that.
Yeah.
So I found that message to be really beautiful, and just like the characters, and was chuckling quite a bit
Hmm.
at the writing and like their back and forth. Thought it was
Yeah.
cool.
And, like, as someone who had been in a three-person friend group in middle school and high school, it's absolutely the worst
Yeah,
because
I mean, they like
there's
the none of
always yeah, that
sorry, finish your
tension.
thought.
No, there's just always that tension of, like, 2 people will always gravitate, and there's
Mhm.
always one person who's kind of on the outside, and that might shift like which 2 are, but that dynamic of kind of you're in a group of 3, there's always someone left out and 2 people kind of getting closer at certain points and leaving out, like, third
Mhm.
wheeling someone, that's so relatable.
Yeah, and, it funny enough, like, plays into the next game we're gonna talk about,
Oh my
Mediterranea
god.
Inferno as well. But the developers of the game have actually said that, like, that was kind of the initial, like, thing that they were trying to draw out
Mm,
that, like, turned into the game, was this idea of how in, like, a group of 3 friends, like, 2 people are always closer and 1 person's left out. And so that was kind of the whole, like, main driving, like, mechanic of the game, and then they built the story around that. So I thought
nice.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Uh, should we move on
Let's
to
talk
our
about
3rd
it.
and final? So the last game we're gonna talk about today is called Mediterranea Inferno. It's from creator Lorenzo Redaelli, who's also known as Guys. It's a cool name. With support from developer Santa Ragione. Basically, Lorenzo wrote the game, did initial sketches, did the music for the game, like, had the whole idea of what the game was, and then got some development support to, get it on, all the different platforms that it came to and everything like that from Santa Regione. Hopefully I'm saying that somewhat correctly. But Mediterranean Inferno is stylized visual novel about 3 childhood friends reconnecting on the other side of COVID lockdowns as they strive to recapture their lost time and achieve the perfect Italian summer. But their secrets, fears, and obsessions end up pitting them against each other in their quest to rediscover themselves. The game came out in 2023, and you can get it on PlayStation, Switch, and PC. So just so that I got to use all of my handheld devices for this podcast, I had actually already bought Mediterranean Inferno like on sale on PlayStation a long time ago, and just hadn't played it yet. So I
Oh,
played
nice.
this one on my PlayStation Portal.
Wow,
So
look at
I had
you.
yeah, I had midnight scenes on the Steam Deck, which maybe that's what impacted my enjoyment of that game. I really don't like playing games handheld on the Steam Deck that much. It's just so
Mm,
heavy. It's
yeah, it
so
is quite
heavy.
heavy.
I find it awkward to
I
hold.
have to, like, lean it on something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then, we know the devil on my Switch too, and Mediterranean Inferno on the PlayStation Portal. And if I'm just rating these games based on the device I played them on, the PlayStation Portal is just so nice to hold. I wish it ran games natively, but like it works just fine if I'm sitting in my chair 10 feet away from my PlayStation, and it just is very nice in my
Yeah,
hands.
yeah, agreed.
But yeah, what did you think of Mediterranean Inferno?
So, I was Googling because it cracked me up how, so it's like, you know, about another group of 3 friends.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like, like you're introduced to them and in their heyday in I think it was Milan, where they grew
Mhm.
up.
Mhm.
They were known as I think, and I'm gonna butcher this, I'm sure, but the
Yeah.
Italian is
We are not Italian.
if I think it's like I ragazzi del Sol is
Mhm.
what their trio is called,
Yeah.
which translates to the sun guys in English. I was like, God, English is such a brutish language. Like, what do you mean I ragazzi del Sol translates to the sun
The
guys?
sun guys,
The sun guys.
the sun guys. Yeah, I feel like
So,
that's why even in the English translation, they had to keep that Italian in there because, like, we need
yeah,
you to understand
like,
that just as a writer, like, I didn't just write and call these guys the fucking sun
yeah,
guys, okay? Like, I was
exactly.
going with the Italian, it sounds so much better.
Ah, oh my god, so funny. So that took me out. But, yeah, so you have, Andrea? Is that how you
I
are
think so.
pronouncing his
Yeah, we
name?
never hear the names pronounced, so we're gonna give it our best shot. So Andrea,
Who's, like, a
Claudio.
very,
Oh, yeah.
like, um, sexually free
Mhm.
and, like, someone who thrives on social connection. I also think, I really appreciated this game for kind of exploring, different aspects of, like, queer nightlife culture
Mhm.
and, like, you know, gay bars not just being a place to drink, but a place to be among each other in a fully
Mhm.
unapologetic way, and, how this game kind of explores how like, it's very much a post-pandemic game,
Yeah, yeah.
like, they talk about how the 3 friends, because of the COVID pandemic in 2020, they all kind of drifted apart. And I think there's also like this kind of in a lot of ways that cliques form and break apart. It's also like maybe they weren't super healthy for each other, and that's also part of why they drifted apart because in some ways they weren't really able to be fully there for each other. But like Andrea's description of just how um, hard the pandemic was for them because of the inability to be in community with other people physically,
Mhm.
and the notion that sex among the queer community isn't just about like getting off, but is also like something that can be freeing and a way of celebrating our identities and stuff. I really liked the kind of the themes that were explored with that character and how like the purest expression of love and joy, um, like how Andrea is just, like, on the dance floor, fully in their body,
Mhm.
like, this idea of going out and dancing and that being, one of the ways to just spread love and light and that being a part of queer nightlife. I liked how, oh my god, what was that game? The German game, uh
Oh, techno banter.
Techno Banter. I think Techno Banter explored this too, not in an explicitly queer way,
Yeah.
but like how going out and dancing and being among other people and doing drugs and whatever, or not doing drugs, but that all of it is also something to be preserved and celebrated because it's like being fully human among each other and being in community without even having to speak and sharing space, so many different people sharing space and coming together and learning to coexist and just sharing love in that way
Mhm.
is really powerful.
Mhm.
I'm not saying you have to do drugs and drink. I'm just saying that 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 part of it is often, I think especially nowadays, like, kind of, demonized or
Well, I mean,
treated
even
critically,
the sexual aspects of pride
and
have
sexual
become
aspects of
come
pride.
really under attack, uh,
Yeah,
in recent years, even from people within the queer community. So,
yeah,
yeah, the game really, like, kind of celebrates without demonizing any
yeah,
of those aspects and treats them as, like, an important part of
mhm,
the connection. And that and all 3 of these characters, like, have different things that are important to them. That's he's just one of the 3 Andrea
yeah,
is one of the 3 characters, and that's what's
exactly,
important to him, and it's how he connects,
mhm,
and, like, social connection is the most important thing to him, and so that's yeah.
yeah,
So it's not saying that that's the only way to be gay, it's not the only
exactly,
way to, do anything,
exactly,
but that's how he personally relates to others and what he derives, like, pleasure and meaning from, so,
yeah.
yeah.
Like, this is my annual, like, kink belongs at Pride,
Yeah.
like, leather people were the first to put themselves out there and to be visible and to be proud and were beaten on the streets and were like some of the first to create space unapologetically for our community. Leather people were some of the, only folks to take care of gay men who were suffering from AIDS during the AIDS pandemic in the 80s. Um, Leather women, lesbians were some of the only people willing to take care of gay men when their own families turned against them. So, like, there's absolutely no reason why kink does not belong at Pride.
Mhm.
That's my annual
Yep.
PSA.
Tap
Come
the
fight me
sign.
about it. But anyway, of course, yeah, like you said, I'm not saying that's the only way to be.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, drugs, drinking, sexual things can be harmful or triggering for some. So again, there's just room for everyone at the table, is all I'm trying to say. And I,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
appreciated the way that that was touched on in this game. Moving on, Mita. So we have Andrea. Mita is another member of the group who has kind of become like a social media influencer or model
Yeah,
during the
specifically
pandemic.
during the pandemic, right? Well, sorry, I cut you off there, but,
No,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
he was previously, like, the low in all these groups, like, Mita used to be the one that was ostracized, right?
Mhm.
Again, this game definitely plays with that idea of, like, the hierarchy in a friendship group
Yeah.
and the idea of, in a group of 3, 2 people are gonna be on one it's gonna be a little bit of a 2 versus 1, and the game
Mhm.
absolutely sets that up in much the same way that, We Know the Devil does, and I think a very differently from We Know the Devil. We Know the Devil gives you a way that you can balance that out and actually help the 3 folks become a trio of friends together that is not toxic, that doesn't leave one person in the
Mhm.
lurch. That is specifically not part of the game design of Mediterranean Inferno. I played through the game, like, basically twice in full and then, like, revisited a handful of scenes, and you actually can like, it is impossible to get all 3
Mm,
characters, like, in a happy copacetic group
mm,
by the end of the game. Like, one of no matter what decisions you make, one person will end up ostracized, and that will lead to kind of like the downfall of the character.
mm,
So, kind of playing with a similar theme there because you get I would say, a much happier ending with We Know the Devil when you can balance that friendship, whereas this game doesn't let you balance the friendship, and it means that the game always ends in kind of a dark, miserable way. Um,
classic gaycation.
Classic vacation. But yeah, but Mita is the one who was previously on the lowest rung of the ladder in the friend group. He was the one that was being made fun of. And
Yeah.
now on the other side of the pandemic, he's become incredibly popular, has hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, and it's really shaken up their dynamic. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll turn it back over.
And then Claudio just kinda comes off as this sad little rich boy. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if you have a deeper read on Claudio, but I was like, he was the one I had the least sort of, like, relatability or empathy for
Well,
because
yeah, I wouldn't say I relate to Claudio at all, but I think they each have a thing that's, like, their number one thing that's most important to them, or they kind of, like, reflect these different aspects of what's
Mm,
important to yeah, I mean, you could all of these things could be important to the same person, right? But they're in the storytelling structure, they're meant to represent kind of what I think the writer of the game saw as, like, kind of the 3 key aspects to, like, what humans pursue.
mm,
So you've got Andrea, who's totally focused on social connection. Like, that's the most important thing to him. Mita is all about influence, which you could also read as like
mm,
power. Like,
mm,
he's very interested in being like uh unassailable, like untouchable,
yeah,
being at the height of the hierarchy. And Claudio is really wrapped up in this idea of the past and his own personal identity. Like, for him, it's all about, he invites them down to his grandfather's, like, summer home. His grandfather, in the story was a famous, designer and, like, worked in the fashion industry and, like, basically
yeah,
made their family, like, made the money that led to their family, success and wealth. And, then it seems like Claudio's father's generation kinda languished in the family, and now
mhm,
Claudio wants to kind of, like, reclaim his family's like fame and fortune and build the family back up, and so he's really hung up on this idea of like his family's history and caught up in like the nostalgia of Claudio's feels very Italian to me and not like understanding a ton about Italian culture. There's some of
mm,
that I think is lost and probably why he's a little bit harder for us to
mm,
relate to. But I would say this is someone who's like, yeah, really hung up on, oh, I just want to go back to like the 70s and 60s. Like things were so good back then, like the
mm,
traditional values, and I'm
mm,
gonna reconnect with religion and my roots, and that's gonna like get me somewhere.
yeah,
That's
and care
basically the read
like
on Claudia.
yeah, like, I like this preoccupation with the s like, the respect and status of his family and
Mhm,
building his family name and having that be known and well
mhm,
regarded and things like that,
mhm,
like, the legacy.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. So those are the 3 characters, and they reconnect. They are not they it seems like their friendship was always a little bit toxic. We
Mhm,
get flashbacks to interactions that they had pre-pandemic, and, yeah, it seems like Claudio and Andrea were just kind of mean to Mita a lot of the time, and Mita was, like, harboring feelings for Claudio, and Claudio kind of, like, was aware of that and like kind of
mhm,
lorded that over Mita. And now that they're back together on the other side of the pandemic, they're both, well, say the other side of the pandemic. The other side of the height of the pandemic is still ongoing, FYI. Um, just in case you weren't aware. But yeah, on the other side of lockdown, and they are
Yeah,
trying to reclaim what they feel they lost. And I think this is something everybody who went through lockdown and those couple of years where things were really, you weren't going out, you were
yeah,
forgoing a lot of your normal activities. I think everybody experienced loss and grief. There's collective trauma that we all experienced from that. But specifically, these young men were kind of at the age where they would have been graduating college and starting their adult life. And so I think the game really hones in on, like, what that experience was like for people in that generation and that age group a lot too, and just
yeah.
yeah, the loss and how they're all super focused on trying to reclaim what they lost as quickly as they possibly can and get
Mhm.
back to something that feels more normal and that they have control of. And so as they start going out, and socializing and partying, they get together for this 3-day perfect Italian summer vacation that they're gonna have together at Claudio's, grandfather's place. Um, and they are visited by this entity. Did you happen to
Yeah.
take down the entity's name? I didn't take it. It's like Madama or something like that?
Yeah.
Madarama?
Let me see if I can.
If you find it, let me know. But the entity comes to them and starts presenting them with these things called mirages that
Yeah.
are these really, like, stylized, like
Madama, yeah.
Madama? Okay. Madama brings them these visions of basically their greatest desires, but it's all, like, feels like there's a catch somewhere. And Madama tells them that he gives them the first vision. The first mirage is free, but it's split across the 3 of them, so it's not gonna be quite as effective, and future ones will
Mhm.
be even better because 'cause it'll be just you.
Mhm.
Um, and he says, that they have to buy these mirages from him using, like, basically the cat like, their points that they're gaining off of their fun summer experiences. So
Yeah.
it's like commodifying their activities into a, like, currency that you can then use to buy this idealized version of yourself, which just thematically right there, I feel like
Yeah.
we could write a whole fucking
Interesting.
paper
Yeah.
on some of what this game is doing, like, on a thematic and story structure level, and what it's trying to say about people and how we craft
Mhm.
identities for ourselves,
Yeah.
is really fascinating. But yeah,
Yeah.
so they can spend these points, they're like summer experience points to purchase these mirages, and the mirages will show
But
them.
then when they purchase the Mirage, it's in the form of peeling this forbidden fruit
Mhm.
that they then very erotically.
It's so erotic. This game is, like, very erotic, like,
This game is
I
lusty.
don't think you see a penis in the entire game, but, like, this game is just, like, sex
There's some
personified.
bulges.
There's some bulges, there are some bulges.
But, like, they peel this fruit and bite into it, and
Uh-huh.
it shows the nectar going down their naked
Just dripping
bodies,
right down.
following it down. So, just didn't wanna miss that part.
Yeah, yeah. No, of course not. We definitely don't wanna overlook that. That's how every single, mirage starts, with the image of the fruit peeling and then them biting into it, the dripping of the nectar down their chest and belly, and then, the large text on the screen, the, like, "You are a martyr,"
Yes.
comes up, and,
And then the terms and conditions.
then the terms and conditions, that's right, and it always just scrolls right through them super fast, and it just says, what's the button that you press at the end? It's like,
It's
"I
like,
don't really agree to this, but if
yeah,
I
it's like,
have to."
yeah, yeah, exactly, like, I don't
It
agree, but I have to, yeah.
Yeah. And then they're met with, yeah, like, this really, hyper, stylized vision of what their ideal self would be. The mirages look different for each of the 3
Mm.
characters based on, again, those kind of, like, categories of what they're really looking for. Or how they, envision their perfect self. And, Marada what was his name again?
Madama.
Madama
Ma
tells them that, if, uh, whoever manages to see 4 mirages before the end of the vacation will get to ascend to heaven.
Mhm.
Um, and so the 3 are then kind of immediately put in competition with each other to save up these summer points. They don't have their own individual allotments of summer points. It's one group allotment
Mm.
based on the activities that they all do together, but then they selfishly can spend cash those points in for mirages that only benefit them, which continues to, like, feed in this theme of, like, the way they're pitted against each other in their friend group and the hierarchy of the group. A lot of Catholic imagery,
Yes.
which was both, that's kind of just part of, like, what that part of the world looks like, there's a lot of that a lot of Catholic imagery, in Italy and, like, present, and it's part of their culture. At the same time, though, this, like, idea of the martyr and how I pulled a I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it.
Mm.
Um, oh, here, yeah, I have a quote from I read a really interesting interview with Lorenzo Redaelli. The interview was, done by Joel Kocher, for Game Developer, and it's called "Exploring Broken Identities for the Steamy Post-Pandemic Vacation in Mediterranea Inferno." Really, really fucking fascinating article. I think if anybody's played Mediterranea Inferno, definitely go read this. Lorenzo just sounds like a really smart and interesting dude, and the piece that like everything he had to say about the game I thought was really interesting. He clearly like had a lot that he was trying to convey here. But he was talking about the martyr a bit and says, the characters in the game have a strong desire for redemption to expel their guilt and are a reflection of post-COVID society. Very Catholic. The central theme of the game, or sorry, the central theme of the narrative is the figure of the martyr. This is what the friends who belong to Generation Z are actually after. However, this is also the root cause of all their problems. The world today is highly dysfunctional, and deep down, I guess, what we really want to do is express the suffering it causes us. To show it, we want to be pitied. We are not ready to be contradicted, even if it means creating more suffering for others and ourselves.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. I thought that idea of exploring that, like the mirages felt so self-indulgent
Yeah.
and like to continue with that erotica feeling, like, they felt very masturbatory, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's them, like, telling themselves who they wanna be and, like, getting off on the idea of, like,
Mm.
what they wanna be and tying that to this idea of a martyr, like, what I've been through,
Mm.
like, I want people to pity me for what I've been through, and I don't wanna be challenged
Yeah.
for the ways that I could be creating more harm or, like, being harmful or, like, anything problematic I might do. I just wanna be pitied. I've been through it, and now it's my time to, like, get whatever I want.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a button to
Mhm.
put on that, but I thought it just yeah, the way they explore all of that was really fascinating.
Yeah. No, I yeah, I agree. And the sort of, like, the combination of I think this was said in the game, but, like, how we coming out of this period of extreme isolation, and yet we've never been more, like, obsessed with each other and what's going on in each
Mm,
other's lives, and,
mm,
like, just feeding off of that and comparing and, like, like, it feels like because of the pandemic, our view into each other's lives were narrowed into what we can see through a phone screen, and so it became so easy to just become one, to show a very specific picture of what your life looks like, and two, to drive yourself crazy comparing yourself to this very, um, curated vision of what someone else's life is like
mhm,
it's impossible to recreate an impossible standard, but when that's all you see, it's easy to fall into that trap of thinking that that's what someone's life looks like. So I felt, like on both sides, it was like the self-obsession and the obsession with comparison to others and what their idealized selves are and trying to be that or compete with that. Um, and that's not even without getting into the trans femininity of it all,
mhm,
which I don't wanna, like, spoil because, um, I think it's an really interesting part of how things get even deeper into the end of the game, but, like, I love where it goes
I mean, I
too.
think I don't know exactly what you're gonna say, but I think you could talk a little bit like, you wanna talk about the dinner scene?
Well, I
or
guess
was there
my
something else?
personal read is that I came away from this game seeing at least I think Andrea and I guess to me, I came away from this seeing Andrea and Mita as either trans femme or kind of exploring.
Mm.
I don't know about Claudio. I don't know about my read on Claudio, but there's also been discussion online that Andrea is a trans woman
Mm.
throughout the game because I don't know that I can't remember if there's pronouns thrown around towards Andrea specifically, but I don't want to say
No,
too
that's
much
fair.
because I think it gets into spoiler territory, but like um yeah, there's a dinner scene where there's this kind of, like, council of 3 trans women who are also friends of theirs who are kind
Mhm.
of listening to the story of their vacation and are like, "Oh my
But
god,
also
y'all."
calling them on all their shit.
Yeah, like,
Like,
being like, "Y'all are still
they
so
literally
wrapped up
go
in each
around the
other.
table and, like, rip
Read them."
yeah, read each one of them. It's so good.
Right. Um, so yeah, I just yeah, I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Everyone
Um
needs a council of trans women too.
and just be, like, so fucking for real with each of them.
Yeah.
They're just like, "Okay, baby, but,
Yeah,
like, here's
like
what you're doing." And, like, yeah, and each of them in turn refuses to accept that. They all after
mhm.
their friends, like, kind of cut them down to size, like, get up and leave the table to,
Yeah.
like, go have some alone time because they don't wanna hear it. Just
Mhm.
like Lorenzo was said, like, we are not ready to be contradicted, even if it means creating more suffering for others and ourselves. And they
Yeah.
reject it, and that's they reject that feedback, and ultimately that's what leads to the final act of the game, which spells tragedy depending on how you've played it out uh, for 2 of the characters. Um Uh, artistically, this game is super fucking cool to look
Oh, so
at.
cool.
Like, it felt like playing it honestly reminded me of, like, a really artsy, like, graphic novel. Like, not, like, picking up, like, the latest Spider-Man, but
Mhm.
like a real true graphic novel made by an independent creator. Like, that's the imagery is just so fucking just bright, vivid colors, like, really cool. Lorenzo talks about this in the interview as well, and I pulled a quote. He says, "I wanted to give that hyper saturated effect you get after staring at the sun or after sunbathing
Mm,
with your eyes closed on a hot summer day." Like, nailed it.
I
Like,
felt that.
that's absolutely what it looks like. He says, "From this comes the idea of using an extremely vivid color palette, which almost hurts the eyes. It's
Mm,
Inferno after all, and hell can be hidden even in paradise if you're there in the wrong mood or with the wrong people."
mm.
Says this game to a T. I wanted to show the typical elements and situations associated with happy feelings, vacations, and fun, but also always with a disturbing undertone, an omen that is impossible to escape from. It also relates to the idea of mirage, a key element of the game, the hallucination given by staying in insulation that blends reality with our inner desire. In the past, people hallucinated oases of fresh water in the torrid desert. Today, even when dying by dehydration, they would see their ideal version of themselves, so unattainable, but so refreshing.
That's interesting because, like, I also feel like that's idea that on that last quote, the hallucination, the mirage
Mhm,
of, like, even when dying by dehydration, they see their ideal version of themselves. I feel like we do that where, like, even when we're rotting in bed and we're unhappy in our lives, like, a lot of us, you just turn to your phone and you just start doom scrolling and you see all of these perfect images or unattainable videos and you just get lost in that for, like, hours instead
mhm,
of being in your reality. Like, that's something that, like,
mhm,
I certainly struggle with phone addiction. So I don't know, just in that I think the pandemic really triggered this kind of, like, turning towards these literal mirages that are just a tap away on our smartphones,
mhm.
and just getting lost in that as well. Like, I can see those kind of themes coming through in the game too.
And how unproductive and self-indulgent so much of that can be, which isn't to say, like, I mean, yeah, we all doom scroll. I'm not sitting here being like, "Oh my god, the people are so bad for, like, just sitting on their phones and, like, doing that," but
Mhm,
I think the game, does a really good job of reflecting, like, the toxic side of that and, like,
mhm,
and making it horrific. Like,
yeah.
this game was like a really effective psychological thriller, and the way it builds throughout the game, and as you continue to participate in the mirages with the different characters, it just you can tell that, like, this is not helping them. It's not healthy for them to keep doing this. It's not real life. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it just yeah, anyway,
Mm.
it's worth reflecting on all that, and I think, I don't know that I've played many other games or even encountered a ton of media that's really started to unpack, like, what the impact that the pandemic
Yeah.
has. It was really cool to see someone, like, tackling that head on and trying to reflect on what the shutdowns and those first couple of years of the pandemic really did to us and did to a generation of people, like, what it took away, but also, like, how fucked it's kinda left us on the other side of it,
Yeah. Real.
is cool. Uh, yeah. So I think people should play these 3 little games if you
Yeah.
wanna get yourself, creeped out a bit for Pride Month, to celebrate Pride Month. Um, I thought it was we talked a bit about horror being a theme in all 3 of these games, along with the LGBTQ, themes, but also religion popping up a couple of times, and this idea of the friend group and the hierarchy of the friend group. Do you have any thoughts on why religion or, friendship groups may have come into play in these games
Mm.
as, uh,
I
repeatable
think
themes?
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the religion part touches on what we were talking about earlier and kind of how religion comes through in horror in general.
Mhm.
And like I think a lot of queer folks, myself included, are kind of interested in religious imagery because a lot of the depictions of a lot of trans art specifically often draws from ancient visualization of angels because like we're literally changing our bodies in ways that are unknown. There's this quote, um, sorry, I'm gonna look it up.
Great podcast content. Um,
Wait,
I had a thought and now it's gone.
okay.
Did you get
This
it?
is from Daniel Mallory Ortberg, who writes, as my friend Julian puts it, this is from his book, Something That May Shock and Discredit You.
Okay.
Quote goes, as my friend Julian puts it, only half winkingly. Of course, this ad pop up comes up. God, God blessed me by making me transsexual for the same reason God made wheat but not bread and fruit but not wine, so that humanity might share in the act of creation.
Ooh,
I fucking
that's a
love that
great quote.
quote.
Yeah, that's a great
Whenever
quote.
I'm like sad about being trans, I just
Mm,
remember that, God made us in his image. God doesn't make mistakes. So if we are sharing in the act of creation by transforming our bodies, that simply must be what God intended when he made us trans. So that's how I feel about why religion has such strong connections and with queer storytelling because like being trans in some ways you can see as becoming closer to God. Um, a God who is all loving and
mhm,
who wants us to be happy and to share with him because he made us in his image. I
mhm.
went to Catholic school.
I did too.
Um,
I like that read on it a lot. I think yeah, that's like a much more positive read than I think I had. I guess I see religion as being like an easy, um stand-in for the constraints of culture. And also, like, I mean, particularly in the West, in the US, like, Christianity is such a dominant and it's unfortunately
mhm,
becoming more dominant, um, force for, like, our cultural values in this country, and so I feel like it's an easy, stand-in for the, the thing to like fight against is like the structure and stuff that's being imposed that queer folks are kind of by default pitted against because it's
Mhm.
so anti, being yourself and anti LGBTQ people. But also like specifically in Mediterranean Inferno and the way the Catholic images are used. This is perhaps an unhinged thing that I'm about to say, but like Catholicism is like low-key erotic? Like, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
like they're so
Oh, yeah.
fixated on
Mhm.
sex and the withholding of it and the, like,
Mhm.
fighting against your base urges, and, like, it's
Mhm.
so hung up on it. And the whole Virgin
Mhm.
Mary thing is
Yep.
like, I
There's also a lot of
it's like it's
consuming the body of
Oh,
Christ
yeah.
and
Yeah.
bringing his blood into you and his
Yep.
body into you
Yep.
and eating his body, lots of
Yep.
consuming and
Yeah.
joining.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, Catholicism might just be, like, kink under a different name, like, I don't
Yeah.
know, it's very erotic despite how dressed up it gets, and so, yeah, I think that's part of why that imagery, like, played so much, and that and the use of the martyr, like,
Yeah.
the crucifixion and, just the idea of, like, "Oh, I'm gonna punish myself,
Mhm.
uh, to achieve, like, the best version of me." Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it's all
Mhm.
very yeah.
I mean, a lot of kink and BDSM, I think, is inspired by the, um, these ideas, like you said, like chastity and self flag was it
Flagellation, yeah,
flagellation
yeah,
and yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
I'm here for it. I see it.
Yeah, getting off on the idea of, like, withholding or, like,
Mhm.
controlling your own urges. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. I'm not a not
I'm not
a
a
su
religionologist.
yeah, not a religious like, I don't know what you would call this type of person, but I definitely think that, plays into it too. This idea that you're gonna, like yeah, there being, like, a sexual tension with the idea of, like, withholding yourself, and denying yourself your base urges is, yeah, seems to be pretty quintessential to
Yeah.
LGBTQ stories or like a key theme.
And why are friend groups? Because we are bitches.
Yeah, are we
So
all just a bunch of messy queers?
we're just messy as hell. We love drama. We love gossip.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that friend groups being a key piece is probably something that you could see in any type of media. So I don't know if that's inherently if
Yeah.
it's inherently gay to is it gay to have friends? Uh,
Fellas, is it gay to have friends?
so yeah, probably not. But yeah, it was interesting that the different threads that we found there that had common themes between the three games. I'm spiraling. Let's wrap it up. Uh, thanks for listening today, but
Thanks.
time is up for today's session of Pixel Therapy. So, we hope that listening to our thoughts and feelings gave you some thoughts and feelings of your own. If you want more pixel therapy in your life, come check us out at patreon.com/pixeltherapypod, where you can sign up for free to stay up to date on everything we have going on, find an archive of all of our content, and even read occasional blog posts about games we don't find time to talk about on the podcast. You should also check out and subscribe to the Pixel Therapy Pod YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@pixeltherapypod, where you can find the live recordings of all of our episodes as well as an archive of our past streams. And be sure to support the show by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That stuff is just as important and we appreciate it just as much.
Finally, since we like to put our money and our energy where our mouth is, we end every episode with a recommended side quest. Um, Continuing to highlight tinyurl.com/op olive branch. Operation Olive Branch is a grassroots collective effort to amplify Palestinian voices and their GoFundMe's. Visit that link to learn more. That's again tinyurl.com/op olive branch, or visit their Instagram page at Operation Olive Branch.
Thank you for that side quest, Spencer. That is our show for today. We are going to be off now for our usual 4 weeks in between episodes. Just had to finagle the schedule a little bit here, but I'm sure you don't mind. You got a little extra pixel therapy in your podcast queue this month. Um, So we'll see you in July. Go forth, run a story mission, level up some stats, and don't forget to hug an NPC every now and then. We'll be back oh so soon with some more
Pixel
Pixel therapy.
therapy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.